Mars was the cradle for much of humanity's tech, since the dark age of technology. But this piece of weaponry finds its origin much closer to mankind's ancestral home. A handgun that punches far above its weight, with killing power beyond that of much of the Astartes' arsenal. Firing a thermodynamic ray that deflagrates the organic matter in its way, instantly flash cooks organs and makes flesh run like wax, explosively burning off flesh and bone, sometimes causing the target to combust. Today, we cover Volkite weaponry, and to do it, we go all the way back to when Terra was still green. The term Volkite weaponry can actually refer to several different types of guns. Some fire thermodynamic precision rays, whereas others rely on exotic powers. Sometimes they are even capable of bending the rays they fire. What they all have in common, however, is that they fire some type of ray, capable of reaching high temperatures, dealing large amounts of damage, both internally as well as externally, in particular, to organic matter. Volkite technology is old tech, dating back to even before Old Night. Originally, it was a deviation of ancient Terran disintegration weaponry, which are capable of reducing targets to atoms in a flash by disrupting its molecular bonding. The psychological impact of the person standing next to you suddenly being reduced to his or her component parts made these weapons valuable indeed. They were also effective against ceramite and other kinds of armor, making them greatly feared by the enemies of mankind. It was only after the disappearance of the Thunder Warriors, shortly before the closing of the Unification War, that they were replaced by Volkite weaponry, phased out in favor of safer, more reliable alternatives. In the 41st millennium, they are rare relics, and revered beyond measure for their effectiveness. At the onset of the Great Crusade, Volkite weapons had all but replaced Terran disintegration weaponry in the Space Marine legions. Attempts were made to make Volkite weapons, such as the Volkite Charger, the main armament used by the Astartes. However, the cost of manufacturing these weapons proved too high, and by the time of the Horus Heresy, their use had dwindled. The loss of forge worlds during the Heresy caused this complex piece of machinery to be pushed further into obscurity. And when the scouring finally ended, they were considered a rarity among the Legionnaires. One pattern in particular stands out above the others: the Tellerac pattern. This pattern was older than the others, perhaps even being closer to ancient Terran disintegration weaponry than to Volkite weaponry. Many Tellerac patterns were restored to service following the shortage of Volkite weaponry after the start of the Horus Heresy. The few relics still in use by the Imperium in the 41st millennium are carefully maintained by the Space Marine armories, safely tucked away for when they are needed most. Much like the rest of the Imperium's arsenal, Volkite weaponry hasn't remained unchanged over the millennia. New versions have been implemented, only to disappear again centuries later. And some rare relics still exist that date back to even before Old Night. In the 41st millennium, Archmagos Dominus Belisarius' Call of the Adeptus Mechanicus created what is now known as Neo-Volkite weapons, to go along with his new line of Primaris Space Marines. The Neo-Volkite weapons were a success on the battlefield, having proven their use across the Indomitus Crusade. They can often be seen wielded by Primaris lieutenants, captains, and veterans across many chapters in the Imperium. Another version of the technology is what's known as Volt-Lock weaponry, used extensively by the Mechanicus and their armies of Skitarii. The Leagues of Votann have their own version, named Vulcanite weapons as well. The Mechanicus believes these Vulcanite weapons were based on old Martian designs. They are, however, far older than that. You might be surprised to hear that a weapon such as this could ever be described as beautiful. But the Volkite Serpenta has somehow managed it. A rare and ancient weapon, also referred to as a Sun Pistol. It is the smallest of the Volkite weapons, and has continued to do its duty for over 10,000 years. Only in death does duty end, and I hope to see you during my next transmission.